Hello, I'm Dr. Henry Goldstein, one of the founders of Don't Forget the Bubbles, and welcome to the live stream. We're here to share with you a bit more detail about a new DFTB initiative. We're launching a Master of Science and MSc in Paediatric Emergency Medicine, and that's in collaboration with Queen Mary University of London. So my colleagues, Becky Platt and Dr. Tessa Davis, are here to tell us a little bit more about this initiative, or this new collaboration. So Tessa, why an MSc?
Hi, Henry. So why an MSc? Well, what we want to do is to give people the opportunity to work with other people in their own community and learn how to improve our practice through this higher level of learning. And that will be through looking at the evidence, through considering how it impacts our clinical practice, and doing that in a structured environment through QMUL, where we can collaborate, discuss, learn with some formal assessment element, and be able to deliver a higher level of learning that gives people a qualification as well that will be useful for their careers, for their clinical practice, but also for their career progression.
It sounds really exciting. So tell me, team, who's it aimed at?
So I hope that it will be aimed at a wide range of people. So although it's being run in the UK, it's a global program. It's aimed at people being able to join from wherever they are in the world. And we've designed the program so that will fit in with your clinical work, with whatever time zone you're in. And I hope that we'll get a wide range of disciplines as well. Becky, you might want to add to that.
Yeah, hi Henry. I think one of the great things about this course is that it is going to be multidisciplinary. So we're hoping that we will attract a wide range of health professionals. So that might be nurses, doctors, paramedics, or anyone else who's involved in providing emergency care for children. We know that in our day-to-day practice, we work best when we're working as a team. And I think that kind of collaboration during learning and learning from each other's experiences and different ways of looking at things is going to be incredibly powerful.
It sounds really exciting. It's, really congruent with what we do at the Bubbles, that we're about meeting people where they are as far as what's practical to you. So Tessa, you started mentioning about it being involved and it not being just your average online course. How's it going to work?
Well, the course is gonna run over 3 years. So there'll be 4 modules in year 1, and then there'll be 4 modules in year 2, and then the third year will be a scientific paper year. So for the first year, we'll run 4 modules, and the modules are 8 weeks long. So each module runs over 8 weeks, and that will be the same structure for years 1 and 2. In the third year, we're going to do a scientific paper. So the idea is that you will put together a paper, the same kind of quality, the same tone, the same goals as you would if you were publishing a paper in a peer-reviewed journal. So you'll be writing it's 3,500 word paper, which we'll go through a process of planning the paper, designing the plan, and then actually writing the paper. And that'll be a large part of the final year. And the second part of the final year will be doing a 20-minute conference-style presentation. And the aim of both of these is to have a practical way of improving our practice through the learning, so that you'll be writing a type of article, but it'll be something that's relevant for our practices. We all try to write and publish in journals. We're all going to need to present at conferences. So that's kind of the idea of year 3. For the individual modules, they're going to be weekly. They're going to be modules where we have weekly discussions, heavily based on forum discussions around topics that are relevant to our clinical practice.
Could you
Becky,
let us in on sort of one of the examples of the modules? Is it organ systems based, or?
Yeah, so we've tried to do the modules based on So for example, the second module will be looking at the neonate and the young infant, and then there'll be a section looking at the adolescent. We do have some on so we've got one module that will be the child with a respiratory or cardiovascular condition. So we're trying to group it like in conditions that are relevant rather than in body parts necessarily. And we will pick common clinical questions for each topic. So for example, if we're looking at, so to give an obvious one, if we're looking at a child we're talking about epilepsy or management of status epilepticus in ED, then the clinical question might be that the child has come in with status, they're a known epileptic, the benzodiazepines haven't helped. Are you going to try using levetiracetam, or are you going to go with phenytoin, which is on your protocol, and why? And so we're trying to pick questions that we think about and we talk about all the time, but actually to then have to go away and consider the evidence base for how you make that decision and how you use that evidence to put into your own practice.
Becky, it sounds like a really dynamic kind of learning environment where you've got the best, the opportunity to learn from all those different parts of our team. So we mentioned really briefly a time commitment, and the entire degree's 3 years. How long are each of the blocks or the modules?
So each module is going to be 8 weeks, and there will be various online forums and discussions during that time. So the idea is that we're taking a really practical approach to learning, so that each individual will go away with a clinical question every week. They'll go away and look at the evidence on that question and translate the knowledge that they're gaining that way into their own practice. We then want people to come back and post that information on discussion forums so that we can have meaningful discussion about that, relating it to our individual practice and discussing what that means to other people's in their practice. So there'll be facilitated discussion, and hopefully everyone will be learning something, first of all by going away and researching the question on their own, and then by bringing it back to be part of a discussion. And I think one of the things that is really attractive to me about this, having recently completed a master's, is that this is broken down into bite-sized chunks. So you can go away, research your topic, come back, have a discussion, really consolidate your learning on that, and then move on to the next one. And I think for people who are combining this with a day-to-day practice role, that's a really manageable way to approach an MSc.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, just to say that if people, I can see that people are watching, that we can see if you have comments or questions, we can actually see them as we're live streaming. So although it looks like we're just having a chat with each other, we're actually we're happy to engage with you guys. So if you've got specific questions, please ask them. I can see
so
we've got
straight
one
up,
here
we've got
from
one.
Daniel.
That's fantastic. So Daniel Connor-Lewis has asked, will there be an option to do a postgraduate diploma or a postgraduate certificate?
So Daniel, yes, there will be. So the course is over 3 years, but you can stop at year 1 and you'll get a PG Cert. You can stop at year 2 and you'll get a PG Dip. Or you can stop at year 3 and you'll get the MSc. So you have these options. So you would do just the first 4 modules if you were doing the PG Cert.
Fantastic, thank you. And then a follow-up from Niall Durant is, how will modules fit around the clinical shift work?
So that's a good question. So we know that most people who are going to be doing the course will be doing shifts. And so we're making almost all of it entirely asynchronous. So it's going to be heavily based on forum discussion, a moderated forum discussion, and that can be done wherever you are, whenever you are, whatever time zone you're in. There may be one component that is a live stream, kind of like this, or a live tutorial. But that will be recorded as well, so you can watch that later on. But the kind of 95% of it is going to be the forum discussion anyway, which will be, or 95% of the time, the weekly task will be the forum discussion, and you can do that in your own time. So it shouldn't be any problem at all around your clinical shifts. The problem, I guess, from your point of view, is going to be more managing the time and the time commitment to do the MSc.
And so what kind of time are we envisaging candidates will need to carve out in their sort of weekly schedule to make time for the forum and for the reading?
So the modules are, the time requirement is set by the university. So the module, an 8-week module is it should be 150 hours of student time. And that's mixed between self-directed learning. It doesn't mean 150 hours answering the forum question, but that's a mix of self-directed learning, discussing on the forum, doing your assignments. So that's kind of the estimate over the period. How you split that up will be up to you. And, it's a higher level, it's level 7 learning. So how people use their time is completely up to them.
Fantastic. So we've got Manish Deva on from New Zealand who's saying kia ora to everybody, which I guess makes me sort of reflect on the fact that we've got people in a couple of different countries on the call now and on the live stream now, as well as people from all around the world watching. And to me, that makes me think about not only sort of domestic fees, but also international fees. What are the kind of costs involved?
Yep, so the costs, so we've kept them in line with QMUL's standard MSc costs, so it would be the same as the other MScs there. So it's going to be, for home students, it will be £6,000 per year over 2 years. So we're looking at £11,000 to £12,000 for the MSc. So you pay each year for 2 years, but that covers your 3-year course. So basically the total cost is £11,000 to £12,000 for home students and £22,000 for overseas students. And that will be, if you just do the PG Cert for a year, it would be a third of that. And if you're doing the PG DIP, it will be 2/3 of that.
Gotcha. So we've also got a question, acknowledging the global nature of the course. Who's in the faculty, and who can we expect to see?
So the faculty is still a work in progress. So we've got we're hoping to have a large range of people involved from globally, so not just from the UK, to bring in emergency medicine practitioners and paediatricians from all over. Becky and Danny Hall have been involved particularly in helping me set up and plan the curriculum, along with my colleagues who on the emergency and resuscitation medicine MSc that are already on the faculty for at QMUL. So I can't formally announce the faculty at this point because it's still getting set up, but you can trust us that we will put together a good faculty using all our networks and connection to try and get a range of expertise to deliver the course well.
So one of the questions that has been asked by Kelly Owens is, what kind of content will there be in relation to child and adolescent mental health? I think it's an area that many of us feel sort of woefully unprepared for, depending on your experiences and your rotations through training.
I agree. And I hope this is a good opportunity for people to be able to learn more and feel more confident. So we have a module that will be on adolescent health, and that's going to include safeguarding mental health. I'm just looking at what we've planned for the curriculum. So we've got sections on gender identity, eating disorders, safeguarding, sexual abuse, pelvic exams, ectopic pregnancy. So all the things that I know, Henry, you love and are comfortable with, but for a lot of us working in paediatrics or PEM, we actually haven't had a lot of teaching on that in our training. So it will be something that we cover.
Yeah, respectfully so. It depends a lot on your clinical experience, and this sounds like an amazing surrogate for clinical experience. Only accounts for so much of what you see through training, and this is why postgraduate certificates or postgraduate masters are so helpful, is that they work as that sort of surrogate clinical experience where you can learn from colleagues who have had that kind of experience and sort of coalesce it all together, so that at the moment you need to know something, bang, it's right there.
Yep.
Just asking a bit more around the time commitment, and Emma Dwyer has asked, how much time a week do we think that the MSc will require, and specifically, is it feasible to do it around a full-time rota?
Oh, okay. Sorry, I
And
think
I'm assuming from rota
that's our
that she's in
second
the
question.
UK.
So Emma's asked 2 questions. So how much time a week? So the modules, like I said, the modules are 8-week modules, and the idea is that it would be 150 hours over that 8-week period. So that's just somewhere between 15 and 20 hours a week. And again, you can divide that up however you would like. It's not, it's level 7 learning. It's postgraduate degree. We're not monitoring your time. It's a guide for time commitment, and how you divide that up around your shifts is completely up to you. But that's the guide. Is it feasible? So yes, it's feasible to do it around a full-time rota. So it's designed for that. I'm already on a emergency and resuscitation medicine MSc at QMUL, and there's a trauma sciences one as well. They all work to similar timescales, and they're designed for clinicians to do it around their rota. And I'll just answer Emma's other question, which if I can find again, which was about publishing a paper. Which is do you need to get the actual paper published in the end? And the answer is that it's not a requirement of passing the MSc to get the paper published. I mean, it would be great if you did, and I hope we would be able to support you through the course to get that paper published, because we are aiming for you to be able to write it up at that standard, and so it shouldn't be a lot more work for you to just go and get it published. But no, it's not you're not going to be passing an MSc based on it actually getting published. It's more about the style of learning and writing and critical analysis and critical thinking.
I think just to follow on from the question about fitting it around a full rota, that's how I completed my masters. I won't say there weren't a few tough moments, and a few tense times at home, but it is possible. And I think particularly what we're trying to do here is make it really flexible so that you can do it in your own time at a time that suits you. So if that means that you want to sit down at 5 o'clock in the morning and do some, that's fine. But equally, if you'd rather do it at 11 o'clock at night, hopefully you can make that work as well.
And I think that's one of the really meaty pragmatic things is that because this is directly applicable to your clinical work, you're going to be feeling the educational effects in your rota, hopefully on a shift-to-shift basis. It's not the kind of thing where you sort of crescendo up and then apex and then go, oh, I know all that stuff now, this is great. It's going to be that incremental learn as you go, which will mean that the stuff that you're reading means that if you get a few minutes of downtime in a shift, you can say, hey, I read this paper, and which is that additional kind of benefit to learning that we're all sort of seeking. I'm just having the rest look through some of the other questions. So Akshay Patel was asked, has said this sounds fantastic.
I've just put one up by Daniel.
So Daniel asks, and we can see on the screen, sorry if this has already been answered, but how will each module be assessed?
So it's not already been answered, but it's fine because I know people are dropping in and out, so don't worry if you think you're asking a question that's already been answered. And we're also, this will be recorded, so you can go back and look at them. So this part is still going through the QMUL process, so everything I am saying about the assessment process is still to be confirmed. So I can tell you what we're aiming for, but it may be slightly different from the version when we actually go to recruit and take applications for this. So the goal is that each module of the 8 modules is going to have an end of module assessment that will be an essay. So that will be an essay that you have to write on a clinical topic. There will be some formative assessments during it. Part of that is your contribution to the discussion forum, and part of that will be some mini assignments that you'll do during the module, which will be presentations, infographics, and we'll give guidance and teaching on that. So again, these are formative, not summative assessments, these ones, but their aim is to help upskill us in the things that we need to do in our career. And then the final year, which I discussed, is doing your scientific paper and your conference presentation.
Amazing. So just jumping to the end of the queue, Manan Mid Abdul has just asked, is the MSc recognised and registrable with the GMC?
So it's an academic qualification, it's not a clinical qualification. So I would guess this refers to a specific registration requirement. Manan, I'm not sure what yours are. So it would be a question for the GMC, but I doubt that this will be have any impact on registration or not with the GMC, because it's an academic qualification.
Thank you. And sort of following on from that, but Akshay Patel, who I started mentioning before, said sounds fantastic, and we completely agree. You think this would be useful for existing and senior PEM trainees, or do you think it's pitched at a slightly different level?
No, so who it's pitched for. So I think it will be variable, but I would expect it will be at the senior level. It's a level 7 postgraduate degree, so the standard is set by university postgraduate degrees. It should be senior PEM trainees, consultants, senior EM trainees. Consultants should be able to do it who want to do an MSc, senior nursing, because the whole goal of the level 7 learning is that you will adapt it to your own experience and your own practice, but you have to meet an academic standard and you have to develop critical thinking skills. I expect it will be more senior people. It's a bit unknown because I don't know who we will be getting on the course, but I expect it will be senior trainees or consultants or senior nursing. From a nursing point of view, Becky, I don't know what you think about who you were anticipating applying.
I think it would be highly relevant for experienced nurses who've had a significant amount of time in practice, probably in some sort of role that they're already using some sort of autonomous role, whether that might be a clinical nurse specialist role or maybe an advanced clinical practitioner role, which is the kind of role I'm doing, or maybe for people who are working from an advanced nurse an emergency nurse practitioner role to a more advanced, completely autonomous role. As Tessa says, it's about developing your analysis and critical thinking skills. So first of all, you need to be able to meet that academic requirement. And secondly, you need to be able to be, I guess, taking those slightly more advanced decisions in your practice to make the learning on this course more meaningful.
Yeah. I'm just going to put, because Chris, whose comment I've put up is our admin for helping get this set up. There's nothing that Chris doesn't know about the administrative side of QMUL and setting this course up. So I'm glad she's here to help with these sorts of things. So she's just clarifying that the 150 hours per module, it's the top end of the guide, and it's self-directed, and for subjects that you know more about, which may be a lot of this depending on your experience, you would spend less time on it. So it is a time commitment, but that's a guide, and that's the top end guide. How you use your time, how you dedicate your time to the MSc is up to you. And you know, Becky, I know you've just done an MSc, so I guess you work variable time lengths on different modules depending on what you know, and I'm sure you didn't do the same number of hours as your colleagues. I'm sure everyone did different amounts. How did you find it?
I think that's exactly right. There are certain modules that where you're maybe revising knowledge that you've already got, or building on it a little bit, and there are other modules where a lot of it is new material. And clearly those latter modules are going to require more of your time. So I think, flexibility is the key. And I think one of the things that I found particularly valuable on one of my modules was this kind of bite-sized approach. So we did several short formative assignments and then a summative assignment at the end. And that is the same sort of approach that we'll be taking here. And I think particularly for people who are trying to combine this with practice and life, that is absolutely the way forward, because it just makes it much more manageable. It's certainly in my head, that was a much easier way to approach it.
So I just did a little sigh on there, and I wanted to make sure it wasn't anybody's sound effect. But when it comes to semester, what I was hearing, Becky, when you were saying that, was talking about kind of planning life and having an element of predictability. And most of us would have done tertiary or postgraduate qualifications sort of using a semesterized learning model. When do we expect the course will start, and will it happen in semesters, or can you dip in and dip out? So that's two questions.
So there's 3 terms over QMUL's academic year, and the academic year runs from September to June, July. So it'll start in September this year. Chris, I'm sure, will be able to come up with the exact term dates, but I don't have them offhand. But yeah, basically it runs 8 weeks from September, and then another 8 weeks up until Christmas. And then, 4 terms, another, because we're doing 4 modules, so it's 4 8-week terms, another up until Christmas, and then 2 more in the second half of the year. So you can't dip in and out, in the sense that you couldn't do one module 1 year and another module another year. So if you commit to year 1, that's the year you're doing, and you do all the modules that year. And these modules, they're compulsory modules, so there's no extra modules. It may be something we'll develop later on, so there'll be more and you can choose options. But at the moment, you've got the 8 modules, and that's what you have to do. Now you can apply for interruption of studies. So if you had signed up for the MSc for 3 years, and for whatever reason, let's say there was a global pandemic or whatever reason, and you want to take interruption of studies, you can apply to do that. And actually, you can interrupt your studies for up to 2 years. That's the maximum, though. After that you wouldn't be able to complete the degree. And you can split these 2 years. They don't have to be done. They could be done 1 year and 1 year. But it's a case of committing to the 1 year at a time. You can't just kind of do a bit here and a bit there.
So following on from that, I guess we're kind of at the stage that people are thinking, does this suit me, and does this suit my life? And Ian Marshall has asked, what will the application process or recruitment timeline and requirements be?
So there's entry requirements, which will go up on the QMUL website, and I'm hoping they'll get that up in the next week or so. So they'll have more detail on the structure and the entry requirements. So the entry requirements are, we've kept them as broad as possible, mainly to encourage people who feel they're able to commit at the level and reach the level of an MSc to do that, rather than being restrictive and saying you have to have had 7 years of clinical experience. So we've set it at slightly a kind of more accessible range to allow people to be included. As far as the application process, I don't have the answer to that. Chris might have. I suppose we don't know what numbers are going to apply. We're aiming to keep the course at a reasonable size, so we're aiming for kind of 25 to 30 people on the course. I guess we'd need to talk about if the numbers or applications get a lot higher, because it will affect how we run the course, and part of it is about that interaction and that connection and discussion, so it would change that. So I'm sure Chris will be able to know and post a bit more about the application process, Ian. But the application process will be available. So the QMUL details will go up on the website in a couple of weeks, but we won't be taking applications, likely I would say, until March, April time. And again, I'll post it on our social media channels when that happens. And at that stage, you would apply. And I'll find out more details about what we're going to do if we get oversubscribed, how we would filter that out. So at the moment, we're not quite at that stage yet.
Thank you. And Richard Johnson's asked, what makes this course different from other courses in this area?
Great question. So there is only one other PEM MSc. And I think there's a space for doing something that is collaborative, that is multidisciplinary. So ours is open to not just medics, but to nursing, to paramedics, to physician associates or physician assistants, and that makes us unique. The other thing that makes the course unique is the collaboration between QMUL and DFTB, because DFTB can bring and is bringing their expertise in delivering online learning, because it has a huge body of experience, even more so over the last year with COVID, delivering online content, community building, and engaging in that exchange of information, as you both know. And so being able to bring that into a formal higher level education course, it will be that combination that makes us unique. And in addition, I think probably also using mine and our network to build a global faculty will be a unique collection of people delivering a formal higher level education course, but with that twist of DFTB's engagement, being dynamic, unique style of delivery. So I think that's what will set it apart and make it worthwhile.
Definitely. That feeling of being sort of post-COVID, pre-COVID, as far as setting everything up goes.
Yeah.
So just a bit more information from Chris, who says that
Chris has corrected me about the interruption of studies. So you can actually take an interruption at the start of a semester, and so you take a year out at a time, but it's a year from when you take it out. So if you had a problem or needed to take a break in December, you could take that till the next year. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris. And so following on from that, Emma Dwyer's asked, will this be running next year as well? And if so, is there an option to apply for deferred entry?
So Chris will be able to answer the deferred entry question. We should get her on a live. Chris might not love to come on a live stream, but maybe next time, Chris, we can persuade you. Yes, the goal is that this will be running for the rest of my career, hopefully, which hopefully is long. And so yes, I expect it will. We will probably adapt things as we go in the course structure and content and delivery, because it's a new model of delivering it through forum discussion and through this kind of interactive model. And so I guess the first group will be the exciting group to be able to try it, to feedback and to improve things as we go. So there may be some changes, but yeah, it should be ongoing.
It's a pretty highly engaged way of doing it.
There you go. Chris has said you can defer, so you can submit a deferred application.
And just a bit more detail there about when you apply. So a CV, transcripts, at least one referee, personal statement, degree transcripts, and until we have that, we can sort of move things along. So a question from Gemma Bates, is it suitable for medical assessment unit staff who do not see injuries?
So it's not a specific injury-related course. So it covers the PEM curriculum, which includes illness. It's got some injuries in there. It's got trauma, critical illness. It's going to cover topics that not everyone already knows a lot about. You should have some general clinical experience in paediatrics, and that's why we've set the entry requirements. So just to give you an example for nursing entry requirements, the requirements to have an undergraduate degree at 2.2 or above, although we consider individual cases on a case-by-case basis, and 2 years of experience in paediatric emergency or critical care nursing. So it's not specific to whether you see or don't see injuries. That's fine. There is an injuries element, but again, you will tailor your learning to what you know as well. So like Becky was saying, if it's a topic, so when you do the injuries module, for example, or the module with injuries in it, you're likely to be spending more time reading up and learning about the injuries side of things because you've got less experience, less experience in injuries. Whereas when you're doing the, gastro section and we're covering gastroenteritis, you'll be more comfortable with that. So you would need to spend less of your time. So it's more about finding, it's experienced adult learners. It's about you directing your time into what makes sense for you. So you're not excluded because you don't have injuries experience. You just need to balance your learning to make sure you get up to speed with that.
And I think, Jim, as I was reading your question out, I was sort of reminded of a lot of general paediatric trainees who are sort of cresting into a paediatric advanced training in Australia. And actually, if you haven't started your emergency component of your PEM training, you might only have done sort of 12 or 14 weeks of time in the ED, and a small component of that was injuries. So to me, having that foundation of having seen some injuries and having a broad approach would put you in really good stead to get the most out of the adult learning component. Becky, are there any other questions bubbling up that you thought that we should ask?
I think we've probably, I feel like, yeah, go on, sorry.
I think we've probably covered everything. We're just kind of skimming through the feed.
I think we've covered all the questions that people have asked. We've gone through the entry requirements, the fees, a bit about how to apply, the structure, the assessments, taking time out, doing it around study. So I think, and the faculty and the model of delivery. I think we've covered it well. I think, but if people have other questions, they can email me or message us or whatever anytime. And we'll keep this live stream up on YouTube and Facebook anyway, so people can have a look.
And if you've found these videos, then you found probably the best way to contact us as well. Fantastic. All right. Well, we might leave it there, team. Tessa, Becky, always such a pleasure to chat. Thanks for your time on the air. Thanks for joining us, everybody else. And stay safe and don't forget the bubbles.